I've been using the Canon R5 Mark II ever since the day it hit the shelves. It's nearly 50,000 photos, hours of footage that's gonna make Netflix jealous, and more time in the field than I like to admit. Before this, I lived with the R5, where I've been shooting with Canon for over 15 years now. That means I have invested a lot into different lenses here and there. So it just kind of makes sense for me, especially financially, I say, for me to just keep going with Canon. And honestly, they have been very reliable in my experience. And I've been trying out different Canon camera bodies as well. And as of now, I feel like my favorite is still the R5 series, especially for the way I shoot, documenting events, architecture, all these different client works, including my own travels, also street photography that I absolutely love and enjoy to do. And of course, YouTube, how can I forget? It's been something that I've been working on and just building up throughout the years so far. And throughout all of these, one camera has risen up, just above all of them, and that is the Canon R5 Mark II. It checks almost every single box, and dare I say, it's actually quite fun to use the R5 Mark II. And yes, I said fun, because if the camera is not enjoyable for you to wanting to pick it up and go out and create and shoot, then it's just pretty much dead paperweight. So here's why this camera matters to me more and where I am at in my photography journey. Now obviously I love to push my photography further and just explore more places and being able to capture them all. Just capturing life the way I see it. Obviously gear isn't the main character or the main point at all, but having a camera that feels invisible in your hands whenever you're out shooting, at the same time is also reliable, fast, and be able to be consistent at whatever you throw at it. That plays a big role in my opinion. A good camera is not about the logo on top of it or the way how beautiful it looks. It's about whether it disappears when you're using it. The type of gear where it facilitates you to be able to get the shot without needing you to think twice about it. And the R5 Mark II delivers pretty much every single time. It's quick, it's accurate, it's dependable. Whether I'm switching between stills to videos in the middle of a busy street or fighting unpredictable lights in China at night, doesn't matter where, I know it'll hold up. Now you might think a high resolution camera like this will probably fall apart whenever you're shooting night photos. However, that's not the case that I've been experiencing. I shoot in low light pretty much all the time, and it hasn't missed a beat. ISO isn't a monster, shadow recovers beautifully, the file stays clean. And honestly, arguing about whether the camera has 13, 14, 15 stops of dynamic range is just internet noise, where people like to compare specs and then just look into the very, very tiny details that has nothing to do about creating, actually going out there and create for yourself. Those numbers, they don't make good photos. Instead, execution does. What matters to me is that the files work, grade well, print well, and I hold up into any kind of environment that I throw them into. Now the autofocus on the Canon R5 Mark II is just fantastic. It's so good to the point where if you're arguing or complaining about you're not getting the shot you want, it's not in focus, then most likely it's user errors. It's not even the camera's fault anymore. The files themselves, they're bigger, but not to the point where it's way too exploded. They're still in a good decent size where my hard drives can still handle, so that's a good thing. And don't you worry, you'll still get a very good decent size file at the same time pro looking photos whenever you take your camera out for either client or for yourself. And on top of that, I feel the Canon R5 Mark II is just so easy to hold. The camera fits inside your hand so comfortably, just like a glove. And that matters more than people like to admit, because everyone's just so focused on spec sheets, the numbers, instead of actually using the camera. They very little notice how good the Canon feels inside your hand. I can shoot events for hours with the camera in my hand, without leaving by my side. And I feel Canon so far with their grip is the most comfortable that I have ever tried. Now it's most likely and obviously not the sexiest camera that it's been ever designed, but when you're 8 hours into a shoot, comfort will always beat aesthetics. Every time. And now in my own stage of photography journey, I don't really need to rely on fun, enjoyable camera to just distract myself and kind of lure myself being able to go out and create and have fun. I can do that with no problem with the Canon R5 Mark II. And as a matter of fact, I value more for memories captured instead of what gear I'm using. And honestly, at the end of the day, when you look back at the photos, you're not gonna be saying, "Oh, I took this with a certain like which camera you took it with." People only remember the image you captured, not the gear you captured with. Now let's move into video because that's where the Canon R5 Mark II really pulled me in. The original R5 was a fantastic camera with C-Log 3 already, which I had no complaints to. Like grading and just like editing them was a breeze and really fun to play with too. But the R5 Mark II does it even better now. We finally got C-Log 2 and that was just a dream come true in this type of like camera body. We get false color, waveform, and all these goodies in the video function. And about the internet complaint that you've probably seen already, that the 60 frames per second 4K is not oversampled. I'm gonna be blunt here, like who cares? I went back and reviewed my footage because I don't usually shoot in 60 frames per second anyways, and I feel like it looks fine. If you can tell without pixel peeping side by side all the time, then I wouldn't say it's actually like that big of a deal problem. And at the same time, I also do understand that if you're really into pixel peeping and just love for your footage to be like super crisp and sharp and just beautiful the way it is, then you're right, this camera is probably not for you. You're more like into video. And there are plenty of cameras out there that solves that problem. And problem solved, just get another camera. By the way, I feel like the slow motion out of this camera is just beautiful. Now to the overheating problem. This is where I do have problems with this camera. Like if I'm shooting videos, maybe for client work, maybe I'm doing like an A-roll for documentary style, or even like talking to the camera like now that I'm doing, the overheating doesn't last very long. Like I say maybe around like 20 minutes, 30 minutes top for me if I let it run for this long, if I just keep on talking to the camera for 30 minutes. Now if I'm shooting for myself, like this YouTube video, then I'll know like maybe I can turn it off and then let it cool and then turn it back on again. And just kind of regroup myself, take a break and look through the script and the talking points that I have. And yes, that could be super annoying and you definitely don't want to do that on the job. So that's exactly why I got a fan grip. That pretty much solves the problem 100%. Is it extra money that you have to spend? Yes, obviously, but it does solve the overheating problem. Now, ironically, I don't think I ever had problems with the R5, at least the copy that I had. But with the R5 Mark II, that's when the overheating starts. And I think the worst case scenario that ever happened to me was I was filming a talking headshot, just like right now, and I start seeing the overheating sign. Then I turn off the camera. However, the file that I was recording with was corrupted, so I couldn't use the whole talking headshot, which means I had to record myself again. And that's when I decided to get this grip so this camera will not overheat. This also makes the camera more reliable for me whenever I'm doing client work because talking headshots could last longer. However, if you're thinking about doing podcasts or even like longer session, then yeah, 100% get this fan grip. You don't want to wait until it overheats on the job. Now here's the underrated hero. I feel like the workflow of this camera is just phenomenal. And this might be the most important part as well. Switching between photos and videos on the camera is just super intuitive. There are different custom modes inside that you can set up for both photos and videos. This way I don't have to fumble around and change this camera settings here and there. Instead, I just go to the custom mode that I trust. The overall design of this camera just feels like it's made for hybrid shooters, and obviously more towards the photo side compared to video. But honestly, in my opinion, the video function is not too shabby at all. Now as for the Canon color science, I mean, yeah, it does look good straight out of the camera, and like if you want to grade it, it's a very easy starting point in my opinion. But I wouldn't say it's like a deal breaker or anything if you are using all the other camera brands. Obviously with different tweaks and adjustments here and there, you'll be able to match the colors if you really want to. So I say it's a plus, but it's not something that I would consider over the other camera brand just because of the color science. And as for battery life on my Canon R5 Mark II, I feel like one is definitely not enough. Get more, get different, like just 4, 5, 6 of them. And honestly with the R5 Mark II, I say it's around maybe the same or even a little less than the R5 that I used to own because of the new eye controlling focus function inside the viewfinder. I feel like using that function definitely drains more power, but it's a really cool function if it works with your eye. Mine is like, I say 60-40, sometimes it works, sometimes it's like frustrating and I have to turn it off. However, I do really hope that they tweak the maybe the software, or maybe they come out with future updates that makes the function 100% usable, and that would be really, really cool. Usually throughout shooting the whole day for events, I probably use like 3 batteries, so maybe have like a couple more extras if you want to use this as your main workhorse. Now this camera is not for everybody. The price is quite steep. It's definitely not a budget camera, but when you actually need this level of performance, I feel like this camera is definitely worth it, especially if you're like me where you have different Canon lenses lying around. And to me, as a working photographer, this is obviously worth it. But if you don't need this level of performance, then that's totally fine too. There are plenty of cheaper options out there that'll serve you just fine as well. So yes, I'm being unapologetically positive on the Canon R5 Mark II. And no, Canon did not pay me to say this. I mean, just look at my follower count. It just happened to be a phenomenal tool for the kind of work I do. People love to bash Canon at this point, like either online or offline all the time. But honestly, I feel like this camera, it deserves credit. Maybe it's not your camera, maybe it is. The whole point is find the one that actually makes you want to go shoot. Not just client work, but the work that you shoot for yourself. And just forget about the gear, like altogether. Don't get me wrong, I feel like gear does matter, but it's not the point. So keep creating, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one.